What up, people? This is The Dispatch. I'm Timmhotep from AFROPUNK, and joining me very shortly,
Hey.
Warriors in the Garden. Hello, 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 hello. Please
Hi.
introduce yourselves.
I'm Kiera Williams.
And I'm Dwreck Ingram. We're with Warriors in the Garden, a collective of activists in New York City.
Yeah.
I am very happy to see you. I'm also in New York City. It is cloudy and dark. I'm in my apartment, but I'm very excited to talk to you because now is the time for people to be motivated, for people to be vocal, and for people to be in the streets. And I'm very heartened by your collective in specific and the stuff you've been doing. So I wanted to have you on this show to kind of just spread some information and give some context to who you are and what you do. So let's just start with that. Tell us more about Warriors in the Garden.
Well, first off, thank you for having us. Our group came together pretty organically. We all met on the front lines protesting. And we make this joke that we're all like the loud friend in the group because we literally all met because we were just in front at a protest. We were super passionate. We were the loudest people there. And we created kind of a private group chat. And that's how the group kind of began and evolved. Now we have over 6 different interdepartmental groups, everything from just teams studying legal and legislative, people focusing on education, other individuals focusing on just social media marketing and communication. So there's a lot of prep that has gone into this group in this process, and there's several of us, and we're becoming stronger and stronger as we go.
I want to know, what was the organizing principle that brought you all together? What was the single, if it was a single issue, that made you all, one, be active, and two, get together and say, we want to organize around these things? Like, what's Warriors in the Garden trying to affect change? Which specific areas?
We are trying to dismantle the system, and we're working on legislative change. So honestly, we were all individually protesting by ourselves. And I think that one day when we were all together and there was like 20,000 people and we kind of like led them and we did a good job, we were like, okay, we're going to do this. So after that, we just decided that that's what we're going to do. We became a group and we just.
Yeah, it sucks that we were all bonded through like visceral pain, and all of us in one way or another had been affected by police brutality, either being a victim of it or witnessing it, or having family members that were. And that's our original bond. But in terms of specifics, we're trying to dive and change the police system and the criminal justice infrastructure completely. That's our main focus. Police reform. And sometimes we don't even like to use the word reform because we want to completely dismantle the system and have a complete crumble it down, burn it down, and rebuild a new one. So it's dismantling, and little things we call like bolts or like 50A or qualified immunities are just part of this big racist white apparatus known as the criminal justice system. And so there's going to be a lot that goes into that. It's not one specific thing, and it's going to take a lot of work. And time. People like Angela Davis and others have been trying to do this for years. So for us to think we're going to come in and make these changes in 2-3 years isn't realistic. This is a lifetime commitment for all of us.
You know what I like about you? I think not only do you guys have the energy, but it's also this commitment to struggle that has you understand that it's not an instantaneous process, that it's a lifelong thing, that it's a thing that takes years, and being able to reference what came before you. I think that's super important. One of the things you mentioned was the idea of qualified immunity. And when you go to your Instagram page, there's a change.org petition up there talking about qualified immunity. For those who are tuned in right now who may not know what that is, could you explain it to them?
Yeah, so qualified immunity is basically, it's like a bunch of little laws, and it doesn't hold government officials accountable when they violate the Constitution. So basically when cops do stuff, and people are like, they think they can get away with it, they legally, literally can get away with it.
Like in the realm and the way I understand it is that, you know, it's a legal doctrine that protects government officials from civil lawsuits, and what that does is disempowers the people who are supposed to be served, so that law enforcement, the state, can basically get away with murder, as we've literally seen.
Basically, there's no balance of power.
And the you know, counter argument that a lot of people on the right, as well as police unions, give is that it will make police harder to do their job. But really, it should be hard to kill someone. It should be hard. People should be held accountable. We don't think that it's hard on police. We think that it's police accountability. And honestly, if we're giving individuals this much power to police and patrol our communities, we want to have a high threshold when it comes to accountability. It should be a lot harder to kill an individual. People shouldn't be shot because they're running away from the police. We should have a level of comfort for police. They shouldn't be watchmen. They should be protectors of our community. And qualified immunity creates this separation between the people, civilians, and those who are supposed to protect us. And it should be a union to protect our communities. So yeah, qualified immunity is complete crap.
like police should not be a protected class, especially because they have our lives in their hands. You know, I think about the moments in my own life that kind of like radicalized me or politicized me. Way back when, like, Amadou Diallo was shot. You know, they shot at him 41 times, 19 bullets hit him. All he had was a wallet. You know, I was a teenager, and that made me understand I need to organize, that there's something systemic going on. There's something absolutely wrong. You know, after that, I even had like a gun in my back from a cop for hopping the turnstile, all this stuff. And so when I meet people who are organizing and making that really conscious decision to put down the phone or step away from the computer and go outside, I'm always interested, what was the moment that politicized you, if you could pinpoint that in your own life? Like, what was like a moment, a thing you saw, a thing that happened to you that was like, nah, fuck this? Like,
for me, it was Sandra Bland. It was Sandra Bland, and also Philandro Castile. Like, that still is heavy. Seeing that little girl telling her mom everything was going to be okay. And I also can tie it back to like qualified immunity, because almost every person that comes in contact with a public official is susceptible, and that video taught me that, to being a victim of a cop. And we don't know if the cop is going to be held accountable. That's a scary feeling in navigating society as a Black person, is like, do I want to call the police when something goes down? Do I want to call the cops on my neighbor because they've been loud? Like, stuff that should be okay to do. Even like in terms of mental illness, there was a situation where somebody was having a breakdown in upstate Buffalo, New York, and you would think as a citizen, you would be able to call the police, but there's a fear in calling the police and people that have drug abuse issues or mental health issues, because they're not sending social workers. They're sending police officers that aren't trained well to de-escalate, but to kill.
Another thing about not being trained to de-escalate, they choose training for militarization over escalation training. And it's kind of like they're literally trained to be kind of like legal assassins. Because like when you do have somebody who's mentally ill and like they're having like, let's say like a schizophrenic scenario, you can't call the cops because they're gonna end up probably killing that person. So it's like, but to circle back to your question, for me, I had that talk with my parents when Trayvon Martin got killed, and that's when that was like the first thing for me where it was like, okay, things aren't for you, like things are different. But since
what was that conversation with your parents like? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm interested in like how parents talk to kids about stuff like this.
So it was my stepdad and my mom, and they were basically like, okay, listen, like we didn't want to have this talk, and it's clear like we have to have it. I think I was like 13 years old, and they're like things are different for us. Like we don't get treated the same. That you have to work twice as hard as, you know, the other to receive not even what they get. And it took me a minute to process that because I was 13. So when I kept seeing like Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, like it just kept, like the anger in me just kept like building up. And I think George Floyd was like the last one for me. I honestly, I didn't even bring myself to watch a video when it came out. But the first day of protesting, May 29th, I said, before I go outside and I go yell for this man, I'm gonna watch that video. And I like that anger was just,
it was a pain. We were all in pain. And I've been at this for a while. I was in St. Louis when Michael Brown was shot. Like I was there on the front lines in Ferguson, in St. Louis. That occurred 10 minutes away from my house. And, I'm not embarrassed to admit this, but like I had reached a point politically where I had become numb to all of the killings of African Americans.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I was so like, honestly, I was over it. And the reason I went protesting is because of allies saying, Derek, like this used to be your passion. Like, come on, hit the streets. And it was a group of white people that like, honestly pulled me out that first day. And because I was, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. I've done this for years.
It's easy to be apathetic about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my fear with this movement. And that's why I'm glad I have the Warriors, is because we've done a really good job in strategically trying to connect with people and keep the momentum, because it's sad that a lot of the time people only think about Black Lives Matter when a death happens or during the holiday. That's the truth.
Yep.
And so we're trying to be a conversation long term.
Let's talk a little bit about, because there's people tuned in right now who have all experienced what we're all experiencing and witnessing stuff, and they're angry as well. But how do you change that anger into action, right? And I think, this is one of the reasons this show exists, is because I want to give people outlets to change their anger and their displeasure into action instead of apathy. So like, just even from a personal standpoint, tell me or give advice to people who want to be active, who want to be part of the change, as opposed to just like very mad or like absorbing the feelings and getting depressed.
Just honestly, I would advise people, if you can protest, go outside, go march. Like it's such a great environment. You meet such heartwarming people who have the same passion, the same desire as you to fight for this change. If you can't protest, there's petitions to sign. You can make calls to bother your city council people to make sure they're doing their part. You can do community work in low-income neighborhoods. Like you can do a lot more than just posting and like sharing stuff. That's good too. But like,
there's levels to this. Like we are focusing now more on digital protesting, because at the end of the day, we are in two pandemics.
Digital era.
Yeah. So, and it's a digital era. A lot of Gen Z is consuming content in a different way. And it's based on videos, social media, and just aesthetics, unfortunately. So we have to find a way to be more palatable to that group, because we know who our audience is. But also in terms of hitting the ground, we're doing more than just protesting. We're doing demonstrations, marches. We're collabing with other groups. We're doing beautification projects in neighborhoods that hurt and hit, anywhere from like Brownsville to the Bronx and Harlem. So
I like that. Yeah.
When it comes to like completely restructuring and dismantling the system, we know that it's going to take more than just marching. We want you to stay mad, but we also want you to strategize and organize as well. And there's a plethora of ways to do that.
A very important thing you said is talking about going to these protests, these demonstrations, and these marches, and finding people and really finding your tribe, right? And I think finding community is a very important part of keeping the fire going, right? Tell me about how people who are interested in working with and organizing with and changing things with Warriors in the Garden can get in contact with you, can just help do the work, because it takes, the system is so structured that it takes the masses of people to make these incremental changes. That's something we can't forget. It's not like, oh, Warriors in the Garden, they're over there, they got me, I'm good. It's like, nah, I have to be down, I have to be contributing in some way. So
we have our DMs are open, but we would rather email. We have our email linked in our bio. We try to stay on top of the DMs, but we get so many, so they get lost. Like, we miss a lot of important things. So we would rather email, or even if you see a protest and we're outside, you can easily walk up to us and be like, we want to help. How can we help? Like, we get that all the time. Also, there are 41 seats up for grabs to be city councilman or city councilwoman, and we are encouraging the youth to take those seats, because in order to infiltrate the system, it has to be done on the inside and the outside. So
and that's
a big help.
There's so much that goes into like political and legislative change, and we are blessed right now in a way I look at as a positive thing. Because of COVID-19, a lot of us are able to dedicate 40 to 50 hours a week to do this.
Yeah.
Outside of quarantine, we wouldn't be able to. So we have people that in their daily lives work, you know, they're marketing directors for huge companies, or people that, you know, are in operations for, you know, companies where they would be on the ground right now. So they're able to utilize that skill set. So we would ask you to use, you know, your corporate or your everyday skill set to help us if you can. Because any type of, like, anything from volunteer work to organizing, we have a plethora of artists. So whatever your gift is, reach out to us and see if we can definitely help. We'll find a space.
I love that idea, because I think a lot of people assume that there are only a couple of ways to contribute to a revolution or mass change, right? And with the tools in front of us, from the internet, from our ability to even like exist within electoral politics, we can all chip in some way. Speaking about electoral politics and these city council seats, right? That was the thing that kind of pricked my ears up, because I think what we're looking for is change, and we're looking to make change happen through power, right? We're trying to have more power. Tell me about how you came to that understanding that, hey, if there's a city council seat that's open, young people should be the people in those seats changing the conversation. Because it's very rare that you hear somebody who's like not 40 talking about, you know, electoral politics, right? Go ahead.
So we've received a little bit of pushback already. And I think it's a media narrative and a narrative for moderates and the right, that you need 15, 20 years experience, go to school, have your doctorates, you know, intern for this person. And so that's why the conversation has been left to, you know, 40-year-olds, because they think you need to have this plethora of experience to sit in the city council seat. And that's not completely true. But I do believe to show, you know, showing and studying yourself approved, because there's no point in us getting a seat if we haven't done the work on the ground, we haven't studied. We need to know the system to break down the system. Literally. So that's, I understand the fear in that, is like, you know, and AOC and other young people get that pushback of just being, you know, a face to a movement and not having substance. We want to make sure that people that we're putting in these seats, they know politics, they know legislation, they know legal matters.
And if they don't know, it's time to educate. Because honestly, back to piggyback off of the
Pardon me as the fire truck passes by. Welcome to New York, y'all.
New York.
Siren Town, USA. Continue, Kiara, sorry.
They try to keep that narrative of like, you have to be older, only because they know like the older people will keep their racist agenda going. They know like the young people aren't standing for it. So now that we are aware, and now that we understand, it's time to just take those seats, and they're just gonna have to be mad.
It's an artificial barrier to entry, you know. And I think to any argument that people say, oh, if you're young, you can't be a part of government or whatever, you're too inexperienced, there is literally a counter argument from the right in the White House. Right? And you see how bad he is fucking shit up, right? Why not have young people, people of color, people of diverse sexual orientations be the people really setting policy, because they reflect really what America is. So yeah.
So yeah, that you know, to talk about diversity as well, like we have that same diversity within Warriors in the Garden. We are youth led, but in terms of like socioeconomic status, education, experience, there's a plethora, even race, there's a plethora of us. We have Afro-Latinos, Caucasians, Caribbean people that were making six figures, and people that were homeless that are a part of this organization. And I think having that diverse view definitely has made us a stronger coalition as well.
Because we have different viewpoints.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, why do you think it was so important to have people from all these different walks of life be in your organization? Like, how does that inform how you guys think?
So honestly, we didn't do it like intentionally. We didn't do it intentionally.
Okay.
Like, when we actually all sat down like at our first meeting and like really like broke the ice because we didn't know each other, we were all like, oh, okay, this is kind of like everyone's different, but it does keep it going. It does bring new ideas, creative ideas, because if everyone was the same, it would kind of be like, all right, we're gonna keep doing this. But it's like, okay, let's do this, and then another one's like, no, this one's cool, and it's like, I learned this from there, and it's like it just brings a whole new perspective.
And it helps us honestly get consensus before we roll anything out. So what we do is sometimes we debate within, we get consensus. We have, the idea that best idea wins. And so when that idea wins, we present it to the public. And I think it's well vetted and thought out before we roll anything out. Some of the hardest things about like civil rights and groups like this is that, the organizational part. And I think that's the part that we're passionate about. And with us having different viewpoints and able to hash things out internally, it really makes that process a lot easier. And I think it helps us kind of attract different people.
Yeah.
People identify that are influencers and that are white. And then we have people, in the Bronx coming up to us and like wanting to know, how do I join the group? I don't have a lot of money, but I want to do this. So our support, it makes our support diverse as well.
Like our range is very broad.
And I feel through that diversity, you arrive at a true democracy, like a very democratic kind of structure to what you do. When you talk about decision making by consensus and best idea wins, it's kind of anti-hierarchical. And in that way, it's already subverting how they want us to think and approach, organizing community and stuff. I have a couple more questions. I know you guys' time is limited, but I'm very interested in the movement, and I want people to really feel that they can be involved and be active. Speaking to the diversity point, in studying like a lot of different movements, one of the mistakes that different movements have made is been being exclusive or being hierarchical or being like, all right, we're male led and all the guys are the only ones who are going to talk, right? Or, like there's no trans people in this organization. You guys being of the generation that you're in, tell me how you are working to kind of correct the mistakes of organizing in the past with what you do in the current time.
I personally try to go above and beyond to give space to Black women within our organization, because I know, historically that's been a voice that's been snuffed out. And even even being a queer male, I realize like there's still an amount of privilege in being a male that women don't receive. And I give them that space, and, the benefit like 100% of the time, because I feel like marginalized voices within marginalized communities are super important. So we have a lot of women in leadership within our organization as well, and it does their perspective is different than mine, and that perspective is needed to kind of balance a lot of the male voices within our group as well.
I think there's like maybe 5 of us, and like maybe like 9 guys, and like there's with us, it's like for the 5 of us, we're like 2 big voices. So like it kind of like we're very outspoken, and the guys are really appreciative of that too, and really supportive, and they listen to everything we have to say. So along with that too, like having like queer people in the group, we always just make sure we try to listen to everyone, because this is everyone's fight. It's not just the women's fight. It's not just the men's fight. It's not just the queer fight. Like it's all Black lives. All Black lives. Like, for sure. Every Black and brown life.
And to comment about like we've had that debate as well in terms of like figureheads, and just outside of the US, most political movements are about the movement. There's an amount of like of being anonymous. And only in the US do we uplift a figurehead and make it about that person and almost make it like a political celebrity instead of the movement.
There you go.
That's something that we're trying to avoid. And make it about the collective, make it about collaborating with other groups. And remember, at the end of the day, this is about, you know, ending police brutality and, you know, breaking down systemic racism. And so it's not about us. It's not about just a single moment or us, you know, becoming famous or how much money we can raise and stuff like that. It's literally about the movement. And that is beyond Warriors in the Garden. It's beyond Dwreck and Kiera.
Yeah, we say this all the time. Like, if we could do this without like having our faces, we would. There's no way. Like, we have to. So,
you know, you are very politically astute and sharp, and because of the way education is structured in the United, like, that's a rare thing, right? You know, like some of the conversations that we're having now, in the general zeitgeist and discourse are very, very new to people because they've never been able to look at America and the structures that make up America in this critical way. So I'm always interested to find out, like, how did you guys, or how do you folks like develop your own political ideology? What are you reading? Who are you talking to? What are you listening to that helps you refine? Because, you know, it's not a destination. It's not like you're, yo, I'm here, I'm woke, and I know everything. It's not, no, like, you're constantly deprogramming yourself because, you know, we all grew up under these conditions, right? And you're constantly trying to refine how you think so it becomes more humanistic. So, like, what are some of the things that are informing how you guys are politically educating yourselves and developing?
For me, I just began to educate myself like before I started protesting because I wasn't very aware of things. And that, like, I don't mind saying that because there's not like you.
It's true. There's no shame in that.
Don't know, like, so. I would say what's been really a big help for me is the people in Warriors that are in the education and the legislation team. They're always pumping content for us to read. They're always sending documents. They're always sending like textbooks, like articles. Read this. Like, this is important, and it literally keeps us up to date and it keeps us knowing on what we really need to be addressing.
Yeah, for sure. I just recently, again, somebody from our education department sent out this PDF. And it was 148 ways on how to protest beyond marches.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and it goes in depth about historically how different groups across the globe have protests. Everything from like sit-ins, demonstrations, boycotting different, you know, corporations. Like, so again, when I say that it's like peeling away an onion. It's going to take more than, you know, just one type of protest or one type of march that's going to change the system. Also, like, we have internal debates, internal discussions. We review articles, podcasts. We consume so much different content because it is at our fingertips that we're educating ourselves. Also, there's been, you know, we have behind the scene conversations with, you know, people that have political aspirations, people that have political power. Connects different organizations that are educational and political nonprofits that are giving us advice and helping us. And so we're also paying homage to the groups that came before us as well.
I love that. And again, I think it speaks to the necessity of community to share ideas, to refine ideas, to learn new things. Yeah, I love that. Before we get out of here, because we've hit 3:30, and I know your time, like I said, your time is precious. What do you want people who are watching this right now to know that we haven't already talked about in terms of becoming active, becoming organized, becoming educated, becoming a contributing member to a community, trying to be free, trying to be liberated, and trying to get equitable treatment?
I would say, like Dwreck said, this doesn't end here. This is a long process. And yes, you will get tired, but take care of yourself before you burn out. But please do not stop supporting. Please do not give up. Please do not think nothing's going to change, because as history has shown, things have changed. We are in a different space than we were 400 years ago. So I believe that change will happen. It's just a matter of time. And we may not be here to see it. Like, we may not be alive. But that's right now, alive right now. We need to fix it for the people behind us. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
That's the point.
And for me, it's like, I feel like we need to be more aware in terms of performative activism and performative allyship.
Let's
It's
talk about it.
something that I've noticed more and more is like white allies wanting clout or credit for supporting a movement.
yeah.
But I've seen the true allies don't want credit. The true allies don't know how they can help. I want to be behind the scenes.
They don't even want to talk.
They don't even want to talk.
They don't want the megaphone, the mic.
And so what me and Kiara have now started is like every Sunday at 7 p.m. we're gonna have Solidarity Sundays, and it's gonna be our own IG live conversation just like this, talking about how to be an ally, how to support Black owned businesses, and we just want to have that conversation. And I it's our job as well to educate people that don't know. At first, I'll admit I personally was getting a little upset for the amount of we had to educate allies on,
it gets tiring.
It gets tiring, but it's our fight, it's our job, and if we do want to win those people over,
yeah.
We're sitting in Dwreck's house, and he's like explaining. I'm like, that's our job though. Like, that's what we gotta do. Like, and he was just like, oh.
I was so sick of explaining the black
plight. Yeah.
Not explained, but it's sad that it has to be explained because and I had to explain it to him as well. Like, these people that are coming because they don't know. They've been taught something their whole life, and now they're seeing that's not what it was. So they're coming to us because they're like, these people may know. Like, look what these people are doing. So it's really up to us.
Yeah, it's not trolling. They legit do not know.
They don't know. Yeah.
We have like a girl from Australia, and they're like, Australia is very segregated. Like, so when she asked, like, is it bad to be white? I was like,
how do I answer this?
I don't even answer this.
Is this a real question? But
it was like a genuine question.
Mm-hmm. I think it's bad to be politically white and to revel in your whiteness and your privilege. Like the fact how you're born is how you're born. Go ahead. Sorry.
We just want people to know that like this fight is going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight, and we've already seen progress from the Post Act to the Eric Garner Act to the repeal of 50A. We will begin chipping away at qualified immunity slowly but surely, and kind of deconstructing every single system. Again, like I look at almost everything as little bolts to an effed up system, and we can't completely burn it down right now until we have other things in place to replace it. It's unfortunate, but that's how the American mind works. Once something becomes policy or becomes an apparatus, they don't want you to completely take it away until you have a better idea in place.
For everyone. Also to piggyback off what Dwreck said, we have gotten a lot done. We have repealed 50A, but it's like, those are crumbs. Do not feel sad. We don't want crumbs. We want the whole loaf. So we're not satisfied. We're going to keep going, and we just want everyone to come with us.
Keep fighting with us.
I love it. And I think, to sustain oneself in struggle is very important. And to do that, sometimes you got to count the wins, even if they're small, right? Because it shows incremental progress, and that's heartening. That's you can get your second win. It's like, okay, they didn't win that time. Because low key, it might not seem like it, but I feel like we have them on the ropes in a lot of ways, right? And that's why they're reacting so extremely and so violently, et cetera, is because they know shit is changing because of people like yourselves and like your organization. So
they're scared. Like,
somebody just said something, and I agree. It's about dismantling the American mind. Like,
boom.
It's about like completely changing the conversation and the thought process on what it means to be a cop, on what it means to be American. Like, literally, we don't want people to live in fear of the police and people that protect them. Like, one of our main leaders, Cindy, she did this amazing speech on being Black and just how like almost some Black people have like. The majority of Black people have this PTSD when it comes to being around police. We want to completely that conversation and that relationship, and it's going to take just a mental decolonization.
Yo, on that note, I got to thank you for both showing up here, having this conversation with me. Thank you for everybody. I'm sorry I didn't get to a bunch of questions, but there were some really important things being spoken. I wanted you to be introduced to Warriors in the Garden. Solidarity Sundays. When are you guys doing the first one?
Wait, and there's also Tea Time Tuesdays as well. So
give us all that, because people got to tap in.
Talking about, like, you know, the Black experience, trying to get other people's opinions on everything as well. It's more just like an outlet. Like, it's another form of like protesting, but we're educating, but we're also receiving. So
hopefully we'll be able, some of the DMs we get in emails are just people wanting to know how to support Black people, Black businesses, the Warriors in the Garden. And I think having that open forum like this and being able to address a lot of the comments in a video form will definitely help. But yes, every Tuesday and Sunday at 7 p.m.
And the handle is at Warriors in the Garden as one word.
Yes, sir.
Show up there, support. The movement is going to keep moving. Be a part of it, because I think we're making history, we're making change, and we're making the world better for everybody. That's it. So
thank you so much for the support.
Thank you for appearing. Thank you everybody who tapped in. Hopefully you got inspired. Seek Warriors in the Garden out, and also seek out education and other ways that you can contribute to this movement, because it's still moving, like I said. All right, y'all. Thank you.
Bye.
Peace. This has been the Dispatch.